All right, you guys. I've got Martin Shen of Finger Motion here.
Right here.
He just he just did a fantastic presentation and a lot of one-on-ones here at the Small Cap Conference, and I just thought we'd have a sort of informal interview, and it'll be free flowing. Anyway, maybe do you want to talk about the 6 or 7 channels of revenue you have as you described?
Most of you probably know that we do have a few fundamental revenue streams. Typically, we start out with top up and recharge, which is the payment processing for the cell phone customers of China Mobile and China Unicom. That's set our primary, and has always been our primary revenue source. From that, we kind of got offshoots into things like SMS, which is text messaging bundling. We were able to generate some revenue from that, and that kind of wavers to and from. And I just go a bit more in depth into that because
Please.
What happens is the Chinese government is obviously very tight on the kind of text messages you can send out. They don't like spam. There's nothing that can be propaganda, anything anti-national, nationalistic. They don't approve of that. And so what we do, we sell these text messaging bundles because we get them at a discounted price.
Mm-hmm.
And so we pass them on to different corporate partners, and then they sometimes pass it on, and then those people sometimes pass it on. And what happened, I think, in a scenario a few months ago was that third or fourth party that they passed it on down to did sending out something that was inappropriate. And then what happened at that point was that comes all the way back to us as the primary seller. And so what I told the management team was we can't have any of that kind of mistakes happen. And so we kind of stepped back a little bit from the SMS. And I said, okay, well, let's make sure that we audit all the way downstream to make sure that whoever's sending anything out is really doing it the right way. We do have our own approval process in the back end, but when we send out the bundle to a third or fourth party down the road, they're not involved in that approval process. But that is going to come back, so we're going to restart that.
So that sort of lowered your earnings briefly, or revenues briefly, but that'll come back.
That will come back as we get kind of more diligent in who we're passing the bundles down to. So that's our SMS. So that's really our second business. We've started something called cloud services. And cloud services involves, some of you might know Amazon Cloud Services.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is data storage for companies that want to archive their information or keep sales information or whatever. And obviously these storage facilities are very, very large. And so we not only do data storage, but we also do computing power. So the idea is that they can come to us, and these are server banks that actually belong to the telcos. And again, they give us discounted pricing to pass that on to corporate partners in terms of people that want to store data or have access to more computing power. There is typically no seasonality to it. There's no cyclical rhythms to how these sales happen. If some company comes up and says, we want to get some storage for a few months, then they come on and they do it. And so what we saw in Q2 was a big jump in that sort of business for us. But then
is it high margin?
It's high margin business,
yeah.
But then in Q3 that kind of dropped off a little bit.
Oh, I see.
So, and I don't want people to read a pattern saying, oh, okay, well, Q2 is going to be high, Q3 is going to be low. That's not really the way it works.
I see.
And so what we've kind of, again, told the team is try to go out there and keep an even flow of the revenue. Obviously keep it climbing if you can, but let's not have these big dips. And it's hard for them to predict. If the customer doesn't want it for whatever reason or doesn't need it, then it doesn't make sense for us to push that out. So, and then ultimately, the big data side is always the goal. It hasn't come to the point where we've got that marketable, commercialized product with our insurance partners as yet. You can see some line items, small revenue on our income statement, which is really the fees that they pay us to build out these research labs, which are fascinating little facilities where our data scientists work with their actuaries to put together that kind of monetizable product. They say, okay, well, you have whatever 2,000, 3,000 data points. Can you get this kind of information? And we'd be like, okay, yeah, we can kind of work with something to get it.
Wow.
And the stuff that they work out is fascinating, and how accurate it is based on demographics. Like, it's not personal, but they can figure out stuff. And that's the most amazing thing. And what we're working towards is that phase 3, which is that commercialized one.
And when does that happen, phase 3?
Well, phase 2 just happened earlier this year.
I see.
And so hopefully by, Q1, again, our year end is Feb, so March is a new year for us. Hopefully by Q1, we'll get something, or Q2, we'll get some sort of marketable product with this insurance.
And then you can start generating revenues with it? Wow.
That'd be the goal.
Wow.
And then there's 2 other new products. We just announced that we have a new app called the Daga app. It's really a lifestyle app. And we announced it because we had signed the material contract to push out this app. But a lot of those really juicy parts haven't been fully pushed out into the app. The idea is that because we have top up and we have SMS and we probably have an insurance product down the road, it would be nice if it all balled into this app so they just go one place. But we don't have those kind of instilled yet. We've gone through beta, and so we do actually have a couple 100,000 subscribers already, but they're subscribed to the base functions of the app, which is maybe car washing, car maintenance type coupons that come from loyalty points from all the other stuff that we do. What we really want to build in, though, is the idea of actually having that top-up system right then and then. You press it and boom, you can top up without having to go to any other site. And that functionality needs to be built into the app. So we're excited that it's launched, but there's certainly more to come from that.
And that's also RC rich
that's
content.
It's kind of like a rich communication services type thing.
Yeah,
a
RCS.
bit, because it does take advantage of increased bandwidth. It's not necessarily the same as the RCS product that we have out there as well. But yeah, it's kind of along the same.
Are you still planning on Apple Care? Quote unquote, Apple Care?
Yeah, so that kind of device protection has also a few hiccups. As many of you know, we brought in one of the largest underwriters in North America and the US, and we brought them into the Chinese market. And we were very excited when we brought them in, but they have a bunch of diligence and hurdles that they've kind of put in front of those Chinese telcos.
Right.
So we've kind of set it up so that it's an automatic opt-in for the people that get the phone,
Right.
to have device protection. But then they added an extra opt-in, and when you add that extra level of scrutiny for the consumer, if you give them the decision, they're more than likely to say no. They say, well, why am I paying for it? And so we didn't really want that added level, and I think neither did the telcos, but that creates kind of a hurdle for us in attacking and penetrating that market, the Chinese market. So that's something that we're trying to work out and trying to figure out how that's going to work best for the consumers.
We were talking last night at dinner a little bit, and I'm trying to remember the context, but how in China everyone uses their phone for everything. It's sort of a cashless society.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't know if it's worth just mentioning your observations.
I think I mentioned to you last night that when you go to dinner in China, you book the reservation on your phone. You go into the restaurant and you scan a QR code and you get your menu. And the only time you'll ever actually see anybody is when the food is actually delivered to you. Then you pay your bill on your phone, be it Alipay or whatever, and then you walk out. And so it has become such a society where everything is digital. Everything, in essence, relies on your phone. So there's really no need for cash. And so it works really well for a company like us, where we're so mobile phone based. We pull data off the mobile phone. So it bodes well for what we want to get done.
There's one question I have that's confusing. Your quarters that just was reported was Q2 for 2024? Q3 for 2024?
Yeah.
It doesn't line up with our quarters.
Okay, so the way it works is because our fiscal year end is in February,
Right.
And our fiscal period runs March 1 to Feb 28.
Okay.
The way the nomenclature works is that you have to identify the fiscal year in which your year end ends. So because it ends in February 2024, it's called fiscal year 2024, but it's Q3. And then Q4 will be December, January, February of December 23 and January, February 24 is Q4 for fiscal year end 2024.
So without, because I don't think there was some pressure on the stock, which I think would have occurred anyway, because I believe there's this selling that occurs at inflection points. But anyway, you missed a cutoff on booking some revenues last quarter, and then you put out that, as I read it, those revenues have been earned. They're just going to be reported in this quarter for from last quarter for this quarter. So it implies you're going to have a big quarter, the fourth quarter, or bigger fourth quarter.
I think one of the issues that one of the issues that we had was really the economy in China did a little step back, pulled back, and so we didn't get quite as much uptick on the cloud services that we wanted. The SMS spam issue also affected our revenues. And then, there was a bit of a cutoff issue with some of the cloud services as well. So what we're looking to do is, if it doesn't kick into Q4, we expect it to certainly hit Q1 of fiscal 2025, which is March, April, May of this upcoming year, as well as some new products that we're looking to launch, which unfortunately we can't announce just yet, but they are some really good things on the horizon that we're looking.
I don't know if the market's the way it used to be, but for me, in my experience, when you have that news in the horizon, the market discounts that good news. It brings it forward, and you should see it in your price as it gets clearer. We hope. One question I always get, which you may not be able to talk about, is that shelf registration that mentioned Univest. Is there anything you can talk about with that, or maybe it's too quiet period-ish?
No, Univest has been a good partner for us. They are working hard to get. They've obviously got the ATM. They're back the ATM for us, and that's already been.
That's at the market offering.
Yeah, that's right. So that's already there, and they're actually looking to do some additional funding for us, hopefully within short order. I know that I met with the CEO of Univest in Tokyo, and we had a good conversation. He said that something's coming up on the horizon. I called his partner as well, and he said there's something happening. So
that's great.
Hopefully we can announce that soon.
That's great news. I don't know how to. I'm trying to make this a positive question, but you don't foresee ever needing to go to lenders whose product is dilutive and destructive to your stock price?
No.
Okay.
Short answer, no. I mean, I think a lot of you are aware that we had a lender, and rumor has it that they were not the best for us. And I think we've done a few things to protect ourselves and our shareholders and our investors in terms of how to kind of get rid of that sort of stuff. We were very fortunate that we were in a position where we actually paid off that debt, and we said, that's it. We don't want to deal with it anymore. We know that there's rumors of other activity, short activity in our stock,
right?
And that's always been a battle. But what I've kind of told management this year was that the short battle is going to happen regardless. Let us focus on building a strong, powerful company. And that's why I'm excited by what I think we're going to announce in Q1 of this year, a big new project for us. What we're going to push towards is obviously a significant rise in revenue, get to that profitability line, get us cash flow positive. And I think that is the thing that's going to send us over. And then the shorts will take care of themselves, where we don't have to worry about it.
The conversation last night, we had maybe 4 or 5 people at the table, mostly professional other than me. And one gentleman pointed out that if you get to profitability, whether it's Finger Motion or any company, the shorts disappear.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like you're going to get to profitability sort of this year, this calendar year?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. I mean, again, not disclosing exactly what we're doing, but we think that new project that we have upcoming will bring in the revenue that we need, will bring us to that EBITDA above line, getting into the black, and
Great.
then being cash flow positive. So.
And do you have debt?
We have no debt.
No debt.
Yeah, no debt. I mean, we have a small little note from one of our long-term shareholders as well. Actually, I'm not even sure if that's still on the balance sheet. But other than that, no debt at all.
But somebody asked me or pointed out to me that you used to do private financings, and that gentleman told me that was a source of selling stock. Is that true, or do you think those people hold the stock?
We've been fortunate that a lot of our long holders are very close to the company. They really believe in what we're able to do. They really believe in our product and the kind of stuff that we can put out there, and they understand that we work very hard as a group to get us to strong revenues and profitability. If one of those shareholders wanted to sell, I'd be okay with it. I mean, some people want to recoup their costs. That's okay. I mean, that's part of the whole market mechanism of capital markets, and I have no issue with that. But on the overall view, I do not believe a lot of these guys. I think a lot of them are truly long holders, and they're here to hopefully.
They can only sell once.
That's right. They should only be able to sell once. So.
They should be able to only. Everyone should be able to. I was thinking of something. Oh, the meeting we had today was very well attended, and I was sitting with a group of investors, two of whom do business in China, and they turned to me and they said, "This is a home run, because these relationships you've built in China and your track record of performance," they were saying to me, "it's impossible to get brand new, and it's very difficult to maintain." So this is a strength, I think, that Finger Motion has with Martin.
One of the things was, like I mentioned at the presentation, was because we're one of the few companies out there that was actually granted that license to do the top up, which really started everything rolling. But the only way to maintain that relationship was we had to make sure that we did a good job.
Right.
These telcos, China Mobile, China Unicom, are in essence state-owned. So they're government entities in essence, almost.
Right.
And they'll tell you when you're not performing. And because we were able to perform, that's how we got the SMS deal after that. And then the cloud services, all these sort of new things that come on. And a lot of that is because we've proven with that track record that we do good work. For them, they just gotta make sure, one, they get paid and their consumers are happy. That's really all they want. And as long as you're able to fulfill that and not ruffle any feathers and pay your taxes, do all this sort of stuff, and kind of stay underlying but very functional, I think that's the secret to being successful.
What's the another thing I hear constantly? Oh, it's a Chinese stock, or the Chinese market's in trouble. It's out of favor. Is that really a fair categorization? I mean, it is. Your customers are Chinese.
Yeah. I would say most astute business people would find it silly to ignore a market as large as China.
Right.
We understand that there's always country risk of dealing with things in China, but like I said, as long as we kind of don't ruffle any feathers and just kind of keep doing what we're doing, I don't think that it's an issue. I think one of the benefits for us being a China-centric company is we're still NASDAQ listed. We're a U.S. domiciled company. We're domiciled in Delaware. Our head office, one of our offices is in New York. And so we still got to play by the rules of NASDAQ. And so anyone that invests in our company, we almost act like a proxy for them. You get to dip your toe into the Chinese market without having a lot of that risk. Because we cover it all by being, U.S. listed.
To me, that's the fascinating story about your big data, sapientis, which I think means human wisdom or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. You can look it up. But you've got Pacific Re and Munich Re,
Yep.
who, if they are in the United States market or the European market, those are mature markets.
Yeah.
They're able to get into China almost like a new field, like a new market. Yet you've been there for years, so you're the link. And then Apple Care is another big insurance company. It seems like you got three huge
Well, the one thing
partners.
the one thing about us is that we deal with these massive companies.
Right.
So on the telco side, China Mobile, China Unicom, huge companies. On the e-commerce side, Alibaba, Pinduoduo, JD.com, the e-commerce sites that the people go to top up on, massive partners, right? And now we have on the insurance side, Pacific Life Re, Munich Re. So they're really good partners to work with. They do sometimes tend to move a little slow when we need things to get done. We're certainly far more agile and versatile as a smaller company. But yeah, they're great partners to work with because they truly validate the work that we're doing.
Right.
When they come in, they say, you know what, we want to work with you because we think you provide good data for our insurance side.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I mean, they're probably not as focused quarter to quarter on this project as you are, but they're there for the long run. And we talked about when you think revenues will go profitable.
Yeah.
I just had a question that left my mind. Oh, this idea that you're a toll booth or a gateway to these online malls, is that a big revenue source or not really?
Not necessarily. I mean, the fact that we're there is always a good position to be in.
Yeah.
But we really work, I guess, as a toll booth for the telcos itself, right? Not necessarily. What those online stores are able to do is to bring the online stores customers to the telco, and then if it somehow attracts more customers for them, all the better. We don't really branch too far outside of that.
You were describing, sorry, I just cut you off, but you were describing today about how you've developed software or intelligence where people can make a decision in that buying without leaving the telecoms or your website or something. I didn't quite get it, but it's sticky.
Yeah, that's the RCS platform. That's the Rich Communication Services platform.
Okay.
The idea is that it relies on that 5G infrastructure, so the ability to handle more complex transactions because there's a greater bandwidth, right? So you can get more information, more data. And what the platform works is that when you're let's say sending it out to your customers, they get it on the platform, and then they can conduct that transaction right there, be it buying a product or whatever. And the beauty of that, I think, is really one for that corporate partner because they want to close that transaction, right? They want to, if they're going to sell something, they want to make sure it gets sold right away. And so by staying on the platform, on our Rich Communication Services platform, then they know that transaction is going to close. And secondly, of course, for the telco side, you stay on the phone system. You don't jump off the system. You don't go to a website. You don't go to an app. You just kind of connect the transaction and you're done.
So this question is a huge question, I think. There's 1.4 billion phone users in China.
1.5 to 1.6.
1.6 billion phone users. They might have more than one phone.
Correct, that's it.
How many of those customers do you have?
That is a loaded question. Obviously, we don't. That's covering the breadth of China.
Right.
And so you work your way province by province theoretically, even though you get, let's say you get the Verizon contract, you get the whole country.
Right.
But the way China works, you still have to work kind of state by state to work your way around. And so we're probably about halfway through the country. We cover the whole country, but you're in certain spots within the country. And so you're working your way through. We probably don't touch maybe 5% of that right now. So yeah, there's still a massive amount to go through.
That's, yeah.
And probably the one thing I mentioned was that there's still these legacy companies that are still handling the transactions. And the telcos don't necessarily care because they're getting paid. So either the payment processor is us, a licensed company, or the unlicensed legacy company. Either way, they still get their money, and that's important to them, right? Now the government wants obviously licensed companies to handle the transactions, so they do weed out those unlicensed ones. But China's so big, it takes a while, right? So they're still doing it as we move along, and maybe new legacy companies come up. But I know that at the point in time when we were issued the license, there's not more than a handful of licenses that were handed out.
So are those other licensees, are they bigger than you?
We actually don't know who they are.
All right.
Yeah, we just know that there's a number out there.
So where I was heading with that 1.6 billion users, you only have touched 5%.
Yeah.
As an investment, let's say to set it and forget it, put it away for 5 years, that seems like an enormous opportunity to grow revenues and profits and sticky users.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. I mean, obviously, you want to continue growing it to the best of your capability. It does get to a point where you might not want to get too big. We know some of the issues that Alibaba had and Jack Ma had with the government. I'm no Jack Ma, so I won't be making any governmental comments and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know how far we can go without attracting too much attention. Obviously, we'll push it as far as we can. We're all about being, big revenue generators. Obviously, getting to a profit line as well. We'll see where it takes us. If we get big, we get big. So.
Well, I think your per share price could be quite high. I know you can't project, but in a 5-year cycle or longer, you've got all the ingredients of a massively successful.
And that's why, like I said, I'm really pushing for us to focus on the performance of the company.
Right.
Get to those revenues, get to that profitability, get that EPS up, because then it all works for itself. I don't have to worry about things like short selling and all that.
Right.
The performance of the company is reflected in the stock price, and that's really where we want to.
And as your revenue grows and cash flow grows, I guess your cap table can stay tight.
Yeah,
It's pretty tight now, right? How many shares do you have out?
56
What's your float,
million,
you think?
56 million, but a lot of it is closely held.
Yeah.
Right, so yeah, it isn't a lot out there
Yeah.
for people to play with right now. So.
It's exciting. He's a Federer fan. For all of you that know, I'm a Djokovic fan, but
we can agree to disagree. That's okay with me. So.
At least it's not Nadal.
Okay.
I ran out of my questions on my list. Sapientus we talked about. You didn't really want to talk about other companies, but the best comparison maybe in the United States is the stock SNOW. I think it's Snowflake or something, but you don't have to compare it to that. But I think for me, the big data has that kind of potential. You were describing last night, or maybe it was today, about how there's like 2,000 or 3,000 data points they can get.
That's right.
You can have one man, they're both doing the same thing, but one's 50 and one's 60, and see how driving a little further, and then you can judge the risks for, I don't know, car insurance or health insurance. Very interesting. All right, I've run out of questions. What else? I'm trying to think what else you said in the presentation today that was exciting. It was a tremendously well-received
There's a lot of people in the room.
A lot of people. And they're very short. They don't give a lot of questions. So he was full one-on-ones from this morning all the way through till now. You can see the closed restaurant.
Yeah, so it's time for a nap.
Yeah. So I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely.
Maybe do it across live and maybe get a couple of investors on.
Sure.
But I thank you guys for listening. Unless there's something else you want to say.
No, just watch our company for the next few months, we have a few exciting things to come along. So I think everyone will be quite happy with what developments are upcoming. So, but thank you for your.
So we're going to sign off from Atlantic City, a place that in the winter you don't have to visit.
You don't have to visit.
You don't have to visit. But anyway, it was a great conference. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you down the road.